it was whispers. Like people weren't saying this out loud to people. I remember being so scared when that happened to me. I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. You know, this is now 10 years later. I'm going to say it out loud. This kind of stuff happened to me all the time. Listen, you got to be the boss lady, right? You got to have boundaries, and you got to, me and my sister always say, we got a boss. Like there's certain times that you're not going to be able to make everybody happy, and you have to make decisions. And I'm very comfortable doing that. But I always try and lead from a place of like, I'm a good person. Like, what can I provide and what can I do for these people that we can all live this great life, make a lot of money, be happy.
What does that mean to you to be a racialized woman lawyer? Welcome to an episode of Breaking Rank. I am your host, Diana Lordson, and I am really thrilled today to be welcoming our special guest, Aneka Jiwaji. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course, I'm so excited to have you here. And, you know, I started Breaking Rank probably a month ago, maybe. I had been promoting it for a while, and we had met each other on LinkedIn, actually.
Yes.
We had been
Yes.
guests of another podcast, and we made the top 5 most listened to episodes. And so we basically got introduced through our mutual friends at Stage.
Yes.
And when I said that I was starting a podcast called Breaking Rank, you had reached out and said, this is right up my alley. This is
Yeah.
exactly the kind of thing that I'm known for. And, you know, after following you on LinkedIn and looking into your background, I was like, she is absolutely right. This is exactly what Breaking Rank is, what it means, what it stands for. And there's so many different areas where you break rank. And so I want to kind of delve into those a little bit more. But first of all, I want to start out by just you kind of telling the audience, who is Aneka?
Who is Aneka? So I'm Aneka. I am a commercial litigator and securities litigator living in Vancouver, Canada. Who am I? I guess like I'm sort of I'm a lawyer, number one, but I feel like a lot of lawyers, that's sort of like our entire identities, and I try to really like think about myself and sort of all of the other things that I'm doing. So for myself anyways, I kind of consider myself to be a little bit of like an out of the box kind of lawyer, I suppose. So, I've got a few of my like other passions outside of law. I'm kind of like known in this market for doing a lot of like writing around mental health and equity issues. I practice law full time. I've recently just launched a specialized corporate boutique with my sister after both of us working in this market for, about 10 years. So I'm like a business owner. I have a jewelry company with my sisters that I also run.
Wow.
In addition to my law practice, I'm a mom. So like lots of different things. That's who's Aneka.
You're
Like I've
basically
got
doing it all.
doing it
You're
all.
making yourself feel bad.
No, that's not the intention. I'm one of those people, like I always have to have some sort of other like passion or project on the go. And then my thing is like, how like normal people, like after they sort of like start doing that passion or whatever, they transition into other things. I tend to like keep them. I've noticed that about myself. I'm like, okay, I love doing LinkedIn. So I'm going to do LinkedIn a whole hog. I love practicing law. I love being in court. So I'm going to do that whole hog. I love, doing the jewelry thing. This is one of mine. I made this.
Oh,
So I do that kind of as much as I can. And there's different seasons of it. There's times where, the law practice is just all consuming and like all of the other passions fall to the side because I'm in a hearing or I'm in a trial or something. And then there's times that like, we're doing like a capsule collection launch for the jewelry company in the spring. So there's times that's a little bit more all consuming. So, the pendulum kind of swings whichever way, depending on what that season sort of looks like in terms of what needs like most of my attention is kind of how I sort of do it rather than try to do it all well all the time, if that makes sense, which is sort of impossible. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah.
no, I had no idea that you were a jewelry maker, a jewelry
Yeah.
designer.
Yeah, so yeah, that started about 2 years ago now. Actually, it was funny because my sister sort of had this idea. I've got two sisters. I'm the middle sister. So I have the law practice with my older sister, and then we have a younger sister who works in advertising in Toronto. And we had these connections in the jewelry world because my mom grew up in jewelry in Our families are from Tanzania and Kenya, and so there's like jewelry is like a big sort of industry there. My mom had grown up in that, but she moved to Canada when she was in her early 20s and had sort of fallen out of doing that stuff. But we always had this idea that the three of us wanted to have a business, me and my sisters. And this is before we launched the law practice. So now we collectively have two businesses together, but at the time we all worked somewhere else. And we really wanted like something for us to do together. And then I actually was the one who was like, I don't have the time for this. Like, I was just kind of like, you guys do it. Like, I'm practicing law full time. I had just had a baby when we started like having these discussions. So my little guy's
Hmm.
3 now, but I remember at the time, my sisters were like, "No, we're not going to do it without you. Like, you have to do it with us. Like, we need you to do it with us." So they kind of like talked me around to it, and then it turned into like I loved doing it. And so my niche in the jewelry business is the actual like looking at what a customer wants. I do all of the consults. We design the ring together. I'm the person who's liaising with all of the suppliers, looking at the pictures, getting the actual like thing from inception to design to manufacturing, and then shipping it into Canada. Because we manufacture most of our stuff in India. So I'm kind of like the supplier relations designer girly. And then my little sister who works in advertising, she does all of our like working with all of our other vendors who do our like our website design and our PR and all of that stuff. And then my older sister does what she does basically for the law firm with the jeweler company as well, in that she runs the whole back end, right? Like all of our finances, all of that kind of thing. And that's all her. I call her like chief everything, like chief legal, chief everything.
Yes.
She does it all. So that's kind of this setup we have. It works well for us. It allows one of us to kind of step in and do more at times when the others are busy, because we all do have other full-time gigs and family and all that. So yeah, that's kind of how that all sort of evolved. And if you had told me like 3 years ago I'd be like designing people's engagement rings, I'd be like, when would I have the time for that? But when you start, like, when you really love something, you make the time for it, right? So yeah, it's just kind of been one of those things. And I have just the most supportive, wonderful group of friends who, when I said, "Oh, I'm doing this," they weren't like, "Hey, that's weird." They were like, "Okay, well, we're all going to do our engagement rings with you then, and we're all going to do our wedding
Oh,
bands and
wow,
upgrades
nice.
for our friends." And that's really kind of how I got started. And then
Those are some
that
good
kind of snowballed
friends.
to other. Yeah, they're great. We all went to law school together. I've actually done a lot of like lawyer rings now in town. They all seem to. I got married very young, so I was certainly not designing any jewelry when I got married, but like now I'm in my mid 30s, and a lot of my friends are getting engaged and married. So I just pinged a friend of mine who I just got his save the date, and I had done his engagement ring. I was like, "Let me know if you want a wedding band to go with that." Like, shameless. So yeah, no, it's
No,
been
I
fun.
love
It's
it.
been
What a
really fun.
talented family.
Yeah,
And
thank
you
you.
really get along as sisters to be doing multiple streams of business together.
Yeah, you
Um,
know what? It's really interesting that you say that. So we were all very close when we were children, and then we all sort of went in very different directions, and we didn't get along like swimmingly. It wasn't that we were like, some sisters are like just really close always. It wasn't that we didn't get along, but we certainly, if you had told me maybe 6 or 7 years ago that we would be doing this together, I would have said no. And that all really changed for us, like very rapidly. So, like during the pandemic, my sisters were coming out here to visit me a lot more because you couldn't travel outside of Canada. And I sort of lived in the nicest place in Canada. I was in Vancouver. It was warm. They were coming out here a lot. We were interacting a lot more because for a long period of time, we all lived in different cities, right? Like my older sister, who I have the law firm with, she wasn't in Vancouver. My little sister was in Toronto. I've always been out here, like from since I went to university, and then we were kind of in each other's lives just by like universe a lot more than we used to be. And then we started saying, and we just had a piece come out about me and my sister in the press and like how we navigate our businesses together. We started going to quarterly sibling therapy together. We've done
Wow.
that now since 2020. So it's now 2026. We have a standing therapy appointment, the three of us, every quarter. And it's a non-negotiable. We go if there's anything that needs to be discussed, it's discussed. If there's any family dynamic stuff that has to be discussed, we do it. Our father passed earlier April 2025. So, you know, for the last couple of years, we were navigating him being in cancer treatment. So a lot of emotions, a lot of, we're also, you know, we're an Indian family. So there's like a cultural piece of like elder care, a lot of pressure, three girls, you know, all not living in the same city as our parents live in. So we, we really found that we had such a good experience going to therapy together. It was actually my little sister's suggestion, and we were like, what would we need to go to therapy for? Like, we're great. We're grand. And then we went and we were like, wow, this is amazing. And we just got so close and we just kept doing it. We were just saying today, actually, like, wow, what a life altering experience because we are now able to have all of these businesses together where my sister and I are in and out of each other's homes like almost on a daily basis. Like we live near each other, we're in each other's homes, we're in the office together every day. So things have really in the last like 6 or 7 years really changed for us in that way that we are now able to do that. It's certainly not to say that we don't, you know, have our moments, but there when you have really good communication, which is something that therapy taught us, it is really easy to deal with almost every issue because most things come down to a communication problem, right? So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it, it's crazy because I am the middle child of two other girls as well. I've
Oh,
two
really? I didn't know that.
and I'm the middle child. And I
Yeah.
think we could benefit from
Oh
quarterly
my gosh.
therapy. I go to
We've told
individual therapy, but like quarterly therapy with my sisters would be groundbreaking, I think.
So how it worked was my little sister went to individual therapy. She's the one who started all of this, and she's 5 years. Me and the older sister are 2 years apart. The little sister is 5 years our junior. We call her. She's like basically in charge of us. But you know, at the time we were like, oh, little, you know, sister, and she was like, listen, I have found individual therapy just so great. I think we should go to sibling therapy. And again, we went grudgingly for her. We were like, oh, maybe she's something she like wants to talk to us about. But we found it to be so amazing that we started going to individual therapy. So
Mm.
I have a standing monthly therapy appointment. I've had one since 2020. So does my older sister. So does my little sister, which in an Indian family is like not the norm, right? Like there's a lot of stigma around mental health.
Yeah.
I remember when we started this, like people were like, sorry, you're doing what now? Like you're going to therapy together? First off, you guys go to therapy. You guys are talking about mental health aloud in an Indian Muslim family. Like that was just weird to people.
Mhm.
And then we just kind of we started telling everyone to go too. We have other friends who have now gone to sibling therapy because we went to sibling therapy, but no, it's amazing. Like we are so close. We have such great relationships, and I would highly recommend you and your sister should go. And it's funny because sometimes we say we've got nothing to talk about. What are we going to this quarterly session for? Like we get along so well. There's nothing to talk about. And it's not that like, you know, something bad comes up every time, but inevitably there's something that can be worked on or something that can be talked about. And it's just like good proactive maintenance when you spend this much time in each other's lives.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you've made me I'm going to reach out to my sisters now and suggest that we go to sibling therapy. I don't know why I never thought of that because I know families do group therapy and things like that all the time. And I'm always like such a proponent of therapy that I haven't even thought about that. But that would make, you know, my sisters and I all live in different cities. But that would just be groundbreaking, I think, for us would, you know, to be able to sit there and talk about, and especially with you, when you've got businesses that you're running together, that adds a whole other layer to the dynamic there. So I can
Oh yeah,
only imagine
100%.
how incredible therapy's been. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to dig into a few different things because I've I had some ideas just based off of your LinkedIn posts. And so
Yeah.
I definitely want to touch on
Ooh,
some
there's
of
so
that
much to talk
because
about.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, your LinkedIn is so great.
Oh,
For
thank
those of
you.
you who do not follow Annika, I suggest that you take a look at her LinkedIn and follow her. She has really incredible insights on all different kinds of topics, but which we'll get into in just a moment. But one thing that I thought was really cool is when you had mentioned that you are a racialized woman lawyer. So, what does that mean to you to be a racialized woman lawyer? And how is that different from being just a woman in law?
Yeah, so like I talked about this a little bit on Megan's podcast actually. So I consider myself to be a racialized woman lawyer, and for me that means that I'm a woman of color. So I kind of in a lot of ways, and I know there's just so many facets of that. You know, there's Black women, there's brown women, there's Asian women, all of those things. I consider us all to be racialized women, and I think that we all have very similar experiences as professionals. I mean, and there's gradients of that, right? I have a lot of friends who identify as being Black. I'm a mix of Black and brown person.
Mhm.
I present differently. I look different than, someone who might be a full Black person, but we have similar experiences. I think we experience some of the similar microaggressions. So for me, we are like a block, like we are all racialized women. And
Mhm.
so I always kind of think of myself as I've got both of those prongs, right? Like I'm a person of color, I'm a racialized person, I'm a woman, and that makes me a racialized woman lawyer. And I think
Mhm.
that that means a few things, especially in law. The face of law is changing a lot right now. It's I see so many more faces and colors and just diversity in law and lawyers coming up. Now that being and like compared to what I saw like even 10 years ago, I've been practicing for 10 years. All of the faces I saw in the prominent positions of like people that I would say
Mhm.
I want a career like that person, they didn't look anything like me. I had nothing that looked like that. Now, my dad was a racialized lawyer in Edmonton, Alberta, which is a very conservative area of Canada. He was one of the first racialized lawyers who, like went to Canada and like came up in the Canadian sort of system, going to a Canadian law school, clerking at the Court of Appeal, all of those things in Edmonton, Alberta. He might not have been the first one, but I think he was pretty close to being one of the first in the 80s. So I really grew up like seeing my dad's experience as a racialized man, which was still a different experience because men have a certain privilege that comes just from being men. But there was a lot of stigma still back then. My dad had a bit of an accent. My dad had grown up in Kenya, so he had a bit of an accent from where he had come from. There was barriers based on that, and so I grew up seeing all of that. But I definitely came into the legal profession from a place of privilege for someone who looks like me because I'd grown up in this industry. I'd been around my dad's practice for a long time. My husband's a lawyer. My sister's a lawyer. My dad has 9 siblings. I think I can never remember the number because some are practicing and some are not anymore, but it's like anywhere between 4 to 6 of them are lawyers at any given time. So I'd grown up around that, which was very sort of different for a lot of, people who look like me. So for me, like that's a really important piece of my identity as being a racialized person and being a woman. And for a long time, I sort of maybe not outwardly wished, but I think there was a little piece of me who sort of, when I was younger, was like, I just wish I was like everybody else. Like, I grew up in a predominantly white, middle class neighborhood in a very conservative sort of, it's like the prairies of Canada, which is, I don't know what the equivalent is in the States, but it's just like, it's very like farmland, rural kind of, and like we grew up in the city, but it was still like, I mean, when we were going to school when I was a child, like we were one of the only racialized families at our school. We were I have memories of people, my mom saying things to people like, oh yeah, my husband's in court. And they'd say, oh, like what was he accused with? And she was like, no, he's the lawyer. Like those were just normal experiences for us growing up. So yeah, so that's kind of a long-winded answer to what I mean by and how I identify as a racialized woman in law.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that way, but don't have the language for it. So it's nice that you have the language for it. And, you mentioned your dad and the misconceptions about him being in legal. And I had recently read one of your LinkedIn posts, I think it was from a few weeks ago, where you had an experience where you someone basically didn't recognize that you were a lawyer, right? I think you were, uh-huh.
I think, yeah, so I think I know what you're talking about. So there's been an incident that has happened in Canada recently, and it's been all over LinkedIn. I was talking about it, other people were talking about it, but there was a racialized woman lawyer, a criminal lawyer, and I believe it was at the Oshawa courthouse, which is in Ontario, who was working late, like after a trial or something, and she was assaulted by police officers at the courthouse. Like I guess she like again, I don't know the details, but from what I've read from the statements, she was kind of like finishing up some prep in one of the witness rooms, which like counsel use all the time, right? But I guess they misunderstood that what she was there for. I don't know what happened, but I mean, like, I don't think this would have happened to like a white dude hanging out at the courthouse, like finishing his paperwork. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So she
yeah.
got assaulted. They handcuffed her. They took her to the like jail cells in the courthouse, and she has retained counsel. So there was a lot of discussion from a number of us, and I probably have it the least worst of all of the women that were sort of talking about it because I have a lot of black friends in the law, like, and
Mhm.
so I think you might have seen my friend Atricia Lewis's post. She's and I had reposted it on my page. She's a very
Mhm.
prominent black lawyer in Toronto, and she was talking about how she recently was doing a long jury trial in a courthouse that she wasn't familiar with, and she asked one of the staff like, "Hey, like, where's the robing room?" And they were like, "Are you a lawyer?" Like, she immediately got the reaction of like, "Are you supposed to be here?" And I've experienced that, maybe not on the same level as her, but I've had many occasions of like I've walked into a room and I can see the look on people's faces of like, we've got this. Like it's this like little lady, like what does she think she's doing here? Especially when I was more junior. And I'm very well known in this market now. I've been doing this 10 years, but I remember being like, not the most well known person in town and, coming in somewhere and I had to be extra prepared, extra on top of my I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this podcast, but extra on top of my shit is the way that I would yeah, yeah. Because like I know that I am held to a different standard than people who don't look like me. Like I have to know exactly what I'm doing. I have to do it well. If I step out of turn even just a little bit, my whole career can be put on the it was unprofessional, this person doesn't have good judgment, narrative. So yeah, I've seen the look on some people's faces when I was less well known. I still get it sometimes, of the like, oh, like we'll wipe the floor with this one. And then like later on, they're like, can we settle? And I'm like, sure,
Yeah.
like we can talk, but yeah, it's the immediate misconception when they see you that you don't strike them as someone who might know what they're doing and might be good at what they're doing. And I think I don't want to have a generalized statement about that because I do have so many amazing supporters in town who don't look like me, and they're really trying to sort of understand the things I'm writing about on LinkedIn. But I think it is any racialized woman, being a
Mhm.
woman in law is hard enough. Being a racialized woman in law, it's a whole other level of, crazy. Like, because I feel like a lot of women who maybe are not racialized women, we have a shared experience in feeling sometimes in legal, like second class citizens, or, we
Mhm.
have to work a lot harder than other people. There's, still a lot of issues around sexual harassment in the law. Like, that is just something that
Mhm.
you're not supposed to talk about, but universally, most of my friends in law have had some sort of uncomfortable experience in that space. But I think for racialized women, there's this other layer of like, okay, you're dealing with all of that, and now you look this way. And now you've got that piece. Like, I have a distinct memory of being quite junior and having someone who continuously would say something like, "What's cooking? Good looking," to me every day. And I would just kind of be like, just kind of working, like just not engage. And at one point, this individual said to me, "Do you find it offensive that I say that to you?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it's a little inappropriate." And the response I got was, "Well, someone once complained about me saying this to them, but they were blonde, blue eyed, and beautiful. So I could understand why they would be offended." And I remember thinking to myself, oh, wow. you just said that. And that's a real true experience. Like I've relayed that experience to friends of mine and they're like, they didn't say that. They said that? And I'm like, they looked me dead ass in the face and said that. And I was like, okay, so wow, like not only am I dealing with this situation, but now I also have to deal with the extra layer of I'm not allowed to be upset about it because I don't fit Eurocentric beauty ideals. Like,
Yeah.
great.
You know,
Perfect.
it's so weird because
Yeah.
in your position as a lawyer, our experiences mirror each other in so many ways. Yours coming from a lawyer perspective, mine working in the legal industry and working in business development. A lot of times, our roles are so, I mean, they're just not well known. And so a lot of times when people say, "Oh, where do you work?" or, I'm like, "Oh, I work at a law firm, or I work in legal." Like, "Oh, are you a
Mm-hmm.
secretary?" And I'm
Ugh.
like, "No, I'm not."
Mm-hmm.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Yeah.
they automatically, it's like one of my best friends is black and she's a doctor. And
Mm-hmm.
every time she says she works in the medical industry, they ask her if she's a nurse or if she's like they never, and she's like, "No, I'm a doctor. I earn this shit." Like respect it.
It's literally crazy. And when you get racialized women talking about this, the experiences start flowing. And I've noticed this, right? It was whispers. Like people weren't saying this out loud to people. I remember being so scared when that happened to me. I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. This is now 10 years later. I'm going to say it out loud. This kind of stuff happened to me all the time, right? I wasn't supposed to say anything about it because you like didn't want to, upset the powers that be. But like these experiences you're talking about, like the nurse, the this, I was talking to another person I know in town who's like been around a long time, and she was saying, when she started out, she's got like so much credibility now, but she walked into a trial that she ended up just absolutely just like wiping the floor with everybody. But when she came in the room, someone looked over and said to her, "What are you doing here?" Like literally looked over and said, "What are you doing here?" And she was like, I'm here to be counsel on the file." Like, excuse me? Like, but like that's just it's I don't think that, and that's why like people will say to me like, Annika, like why are you so like hung up on this like racialized people thing, like everyone has struggles, right? It's like you don't know because you haven't lived in this body. You don't know the kind of things that people just say to us, assume about us, especially with me, because I am so in your face. Like I believe what I believe. I'm going to tell you how it is. And
Mhm.
I've had many people say to me, like, whoa, like, you're like very much surprising. I've gotten that reaction from a lot of people who are very like, but like, we're confused by you. Like, you're very good at what you do, but like, you're just like not really that excited about like fitting into the mold of like, do it well and like we'll give you a gold star. Like that's very confusing for them because especially like I appear as a brown woman. I am a mixed woman, but I appear as a brown woman. And it's like, okay, well, you'll be the model minority. We'll put you in the back room. You'll do all the legal work and we'll get all the glory. And I'm like, no, I have my own thing going on. So when my LinkedIn really started taking off, I had a number of people who were, this is like when I was at like 2,000 followers, and I think I'm close to 10 at this time. But it was very like, what the hell does she think she's doing? Like, this is not her role. Like, her role is not to be like out here talking about these topics, putting herself out. Her role is model minority. She's a good lawyer. Put her in the back room and get her working. And it's like it was a very confusing piece for a lot of people because they're like, okay, well, she's doing that piece too and she's good at it, but like, what do we do with this other thing that we weren't expecting?
I love, oh my goodness, this is just, I mean, preaching to the choir because this is so breaking rank and it's the LinkedIn piece is really, it's something I struggle with all the time because I write things on LinkedIn that I know that people are probably not going to like. And they're like, who does she
Mm-hmm.
think she is trying to be a thought
Yeah.
leader? Like her
Yeah.
role, she needs to be promoting which lawyers at her firm made chambers or,
But you can
made
do both. You can,
5,500
that's
or,
what's always lost
yeah,
on me. Why can't we be multifaceted people who are doing both? Like, I've
yeah.
never understood. Like, I feel like non racialized people are allowed to be multifaceted. They can be athletes, they can be good at lawyers, they can be family
Hmm.
men, you're allowed to be multifaceted. But it's like people want to put us in this box, right? So for you, you should only be be promoting people on Chambers. Like, why should you have a podcast, Diana? That's not your role, right? Why should Annika have a LinkedIn presence? Why should she have her own firm? She should work within the system that we've created. That seems to be sort of the, and I found that there's a real dichotomy. There's like all of the people who are like, yes, we love this. Like, you know, and I've got so much great support of people being like, that's great. Like, you do you, we're here, you know? And then there's the like other faction, which is like, no, this is the way that it's always been done. Like, you don't bring in business by doing stuff like this. I got a lot of pushback on that. Like, how do you know all these people? Who's sending you work? I'm like, I have great referral sources because I've made really good connections with other women lawyers. So if they have an issue, they send me the work. And that really has destabilized a lot of people who are not used to what I'm doing. It's like it's
Yeah.
very new to them. And instead of thinking like, oh, this could be cool, I think they're quite threatened by it. And
Hmm.
it's the people who are very secure with
And
themselves.
maybe
It's
a
not,
little
yeah,
jealous. Maybe a
maybe a
little
little
jealous.
jealous. There might be a little jealousy. I do think there's like, you know, my circle, I'm so proud to call each and every one of them my friends because I think it would be pretty easy to be like, wow, Annika's a little nutty. You know what I mean? Like she got the LinkedIn, she got the this, she got the, but they so see me. They're like, this is like who she was sort of, you know, meant to be. And we're going to support her in doing this thing. And like, you know, they're not sort of, they're not letting their own maybe insecurities or jealousies or anything bring me down. And that's why I'm surrounded by those people. And I do the same for them, right? If one of my friends is like, okay, well, now I want to go do this thing, I'm like, okay, well, how do I support you in doing that? I'm not going to let my own, like, oh, maybe I should be doing that, you know, like be like, bring you down. And I think that's really like the people that I'm really focused on surrounding myself with because I'm no longer interested in trying to please those who want me to fit within their definition of what that should look like in their system. That part is over. I did that for too long. I kept saying to myself like, you know, I'll just be within the system and then like one day I'll make partner at one of these firms that I have absolutely nothing in common with, but the system's not built for what how where somewhere like I would thrive, right? So the
Hmm.
appeasement of those people in that system for me, like we're just done with that. We're moving forward. It's over. And I feel very strongly about that.
And you've been very clear about refusing to be framed as a diversity hire.
Yes.
I love that post of like
Yeah.
not another DEI
No.
hire.
Yeah.
And so, what does that label get wrong?
Oh gosh, this is such a loaded question, but I love it. Okay, so not your DEI hire.
Hmm.
How this all came about. I one day was, you know, sitting there just thinking, and I was like, you know what? I'm not your DEI hire. Like, I'm not here to like be on your committee. So
Hmm.
that's what we're building here. We're building an excellent firm of women, racialized folks who are being overlooked and undervalued at the places that they work at. And they're like kind of hoping that like maybe like one day, and listen, I speak from experience. I'm not judging anybody. I've been that person, right? Like maybe like can I like am I gonna be able to be included at some point like and you know you work your ass off and you think that that's going to be enough because you know like I think for immigrant people sometimes we think this is a meritocracy where like if I work just that much harder, I build just that much more, I have just that many more decisions under my belt, I do just that much better, like I will be undeniable, so like you're just gonna have to let me into leadership, right? But at the end of the day, that's not the way that this works, right? Which is why I say we have to build places where we are truly committed to celebrating racialized and women excellence. Because if there's not a true commitment to that, and this is like a DEI project, it's just never going to work. And that we're not about that. We are not your DEI hire. Don't hire us for
Yes,
that. Yeah,
I'm going to use that
yeah,
hashtag.
yeah. I
And
love it. Let's spread it
what
around.
was, yes, I will. And what
Yeah.
was the moment where you and your sister got together and just said, you know what, screw this shit. We're going to start our own law firm. Like we don't want to. What was there a pivotal moment where you both just said, all right, let's do things our own way?
So listen, I am very much like a what you see is what you get. You get the real beans story from me. So I don't even know what that's saying. I just think I might have just made that up. Real beans, real deal, real beans. I don't know. My sister wanted to start this firm with me for like a while. She was like, we should go out on our own. This is stupid. Like, we both have the ability to bring in a lot of work. My sister is an IP and tax specialist. She does very specialized work. She's very good at what she does. She's well known in the IP community. And she was bringing in quite a fair bit of work at the firm that she was at. I say
Hmm.
it like that because it's like, if either of us were a white man, I truly feel like people would be like, wow, they're a rainmaker who's like good at what they do.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Right. But it's like, because we are in these bodies, it's like the reaction is a little bit different. Right. So
Hmm.
she was like, listen, after dad passed in April, she's like, I'm going to take over this name, Jiwaji Law. We do completely different things than dad did. So we didn't inherit, a book of business or anything like that. But I'm going to use like the goodwill in this name and I'm going to start this firm. I want you to come with me. At the time, I had been at my former firm for less than a year. And so I was like, I don't want any sort of narrative that like I couldn't hack it at this top commercial litigation firm. So I had to leave before I didn't even make it a year, any of that. So I said to her, like, no, the timing's not right for me. I'm not able to come do this with you right now. I still was very much caught up genuinely in I have to make it within the system before I can leave the system. I was like, I have to make partner at one of these firms before I can go do my own thing. I knew that was end game for me, that I eventually was going to go start my own firm either with her or by myself. Like that was just going to be the thing, because I knew that the systems weren't going to work for me. But I had gotten really caught up in this, like what I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to make partner at one of these firms. And to be completely frank with you, I had a smasher of a professional year. Like everything professionally was like going amazing for me. I was like, I was getting great files. Like I was able to bring in some really great work. I was winning like quite a fair bit. Like it was going really, 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 really well. But I just was not getting what I would assume would be the regular reaction to that. And that for me was the turning point of like, okay, clearly there's no future for me in the system. There just isn't. And I'm tired of like having to dull my shine and bring myself down so that I can fit within this box. And I'm doing a shit job at fitting in it anyways. Like, nobody's like, oh, wow, Annika really fit in the box. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, why am I continuing to do this? So my sister was on me. We should go do this. We should go do this. We should go do this. I was at a crossroads of like, I'm never going to make partner at the firm that I'm at. So like, what does that look like for me? So I actually went and did like the interview circuit because my sister and one of my like main mentors was like, you should not start a firm unless you know that that is what you picked out of all of the other options that you had on the table. So I
Hmm.
actually went and I interviewed at some of the big firms. I had offers at various places to go back into big law and do that whole dance again. And I genuinely considered doing it because I was like, I still need to, make partner at one of these places, like genuinely.
Hmm.
And my sister kept saying to me, there is no hard feelings. You do like what you feel is the best thing for you, and I will support you in that. And she meant that genuinely. There was never a time where she was like, this is stupid. Like, why would you even consider it? We also had a number of firms who, when I started interviewing with them, they wanted both of us. So they
Oh,
said, drop
interesting.
this whole thing. You guys all come here and we'll give you the platform to do what you want to do. And we very much considered that also because we have
Hmm.
very like specialized skill sets, right? So we were like, ooh, like that could be cool. And we were mulling and thinking and talking about it. And I woke up on a Saturday and I just felt so clear for the first time in a long time, like since dad passed, where I was like, no, we're not going to someone else's thing to do this dance again. Like nobody is going to tell us how to be, how to live, how to practice law, what that looks like, what we're allowed to say online. So we were like, there, the thing that we want just doesn't exist. Let's just build it. So I called my sister that day, and I remember I just said to her, like, Afshan, I'm saying no to all of this other stuff. Like, I'm in. Let's do this. And like that was the moment that we were like, okay, we're committed. We're doing this. Let's go. So yeah, so that's like the real deal story of how this whole thing turned around. And I have never looked back. Like once my mind is made up on something, like I am so stubborn. I was like, Jiwaji law is it. I'm doing this. I'm doing this with my whole chest, and like we're going, and I've never had any regrets about making that decision.
How do you make sure that your firm doesn't recreate the same dynamics that you left?
Okay, so we have a discussion about this like honestly like every day. Like we're like, are we doing this right? Is this the right way to do things? Are and there's going to be so and we're not perfect like by any means, right? There's going to be so many growing pains, but we always I whenever I make a decision, I try to remember myself as like a second or third year call. And what did I want? All I wanted was for someone to see me, right? Take me under their wing, teach me. I had a funny situation recently where someone said to me, Annika, you're really good. Like they had seen me in court. Who did you come up under? They said to me, who did you come up under? Because in this industry, typically, if you end up in like the litigation circles that I'm in, you came up under one of the heavy hitters, right? They taught you everything that they knew. They took you under their wing. They kind of they lifted you up. You went to court with them. You carried the bag and whatever. And that's not to say that I haven't had good mentors, but sir, I remember I looked at that person and I said, I came up under Aneka Jiwaji. And I meant that genuinely in the sense of like,
Hmm.
there was never someone who said to me, like, I'm your person at this firm. You come with me to court. I teach you everything that I know. I lift you up. I look out for you. Like that didn't exist for me in the way. And I saw it happening at all of the firms that I was at, right?
Hmm.
It was almost inevitably some tall white dude each and every single time who was the golden boy who got that mentorship and was like, this is going to be the next, so and
Yeah.
so. And I never had that. And when I tell you I feel that I've built this career on like sheer force of will at sometimes, where I'm like, I don't know anything about any of this. I am going to read every case in this area. I'm going to read every textbook. I'm going to try and figure it out. Like my dad didn't practice in any of the areas I practiced in. But I would, call him and say, how do I do this? Like what do I look at? And then I from there branched out into all of these amazing mentors who then I could call them. And I really feel like that's when my career really shifted, where I was like, I'm snowballing on this file. I don't know what to do. I have no mentorship. Nobody's helping me. Who do I call? And I had those people to call outside of the systems that I was in. They were always racialized people or women every time. And so I look back on those experiences and say, like, how do I lift these racialized women up? Like these people that I want to have at my firm. And they don't all have to be racialized, but women in general, I have a passion for lifting them up. I think you have to see them and you have to invest in them, right? So I keep trying to put myself back in the shoes of like that person who just really wanted their shot. And what can I provide for them so that it doesn't look the same way that it looked for me? So yeah, I'm always trying to like be reflective. And my paralegal who joined me from my previous firm, when she said that she was going to come with me to do this cowboy adventure, I remember she looked at me and she said, remember how you are. She said, remember like how you are. I don't want to get emotional, but she said, you need to stay this person. Because like when you have power and you have wealth, I want you to remember how you are now because you're a good person right now. And I always remember that. I'm like, I don't want to be like, you know, I'm the boss. Like, listen, you got to be the boss lady, right? You got to have boundaries and me and my sister always say, we got a boss. Like, there are certain times that you're not going to be able to make everybody happy and you have to make decisions. And I'm very comfortable doing that. But I always try and lead from a place of like, I'm a good person. Like, what can I provide and what can I do for these people that we can all live this great life, make a lot of money, be happy, because that's what we all want, right? We want money,
Hmm.
we want happiness, and we want respect. That's why we come to work. And if we can provide that for people who
Yeah.
work here and have that ourselves, I will call this project a success. That's how I feel. So yeah.
Yes, you are such a powerhouse, like
Well, thank
just a
you.
force, to
Thank you.
be
I really
reckoned
appreciate
with.
that.
It's
I,
just, I
I
mean, hearing everything that you've accomplished and especially with all of in some ways you've said that it's a privilege because you did grow up with a dad who was a lawyer and around a lot of lawyers, but you also came up as a racialized woman, right? And you are somebody who has defied odds and who has really And you've taken your experiences and amplified them on social media and in a way that really resonates with other people, where they're looking at you as an inspiration and as a thought leader. How does that feel?
It feels surreal, honestly, Diana. It feels surreal. I texted a girlfriend of mine the other day and I said, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I prayed for this life. Like, I worked my ass off and I prayed for this life. Like, and I'm not religious. Like, everyone who knows me knows I'm not really religious. But when I tell you I prayed in the most Annika way possible, that's how I feel. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I want this. I want this so bad. Like, I'm going to work my ass off. And every time that people said, no to me, I pivoted. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do this. Like I remember being like, I took a job at the BC Securities Commission and people were like, what, like, you're not a in-house litigator, like you're a private practice litigator. Like, why are you going and doing that? And I was like, I have this little plan. I'm going to go there. I'm going to get securities experience. I'm going to do my master's in securities law, which I did while I was there. I was pregnant. I remember people thought I was insane. They were like, why are you doing this like master's now? Blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going to use this as a pivot point. I'm going to learn this skill set really well. I'm going to bring this back into the private market. And it's going to be a skill set that a lot of people don't have. And that has served me really well. But those were all like little pivots where I just trusted my gut. I was like, this feels like the right decision right now. I'm going to go and do that. And people judged me a lot at the time. They were like, oh, you're bouncing around too much. You've been at too many places. You're not loyal. You're not committed. But every one of those decisions I made with intentionality. So when I'm writing on LinkedIn, I'm hoping that people can see that, like, it's not like a defy the odds type thing. It's more like you know, people said to me, if you speak out, your career is going to be dead in the water. And it's been the exact opposite. So I want people to see that, like, actually, it's the proverbial them. They love to say, like, you better stay in line or like we'll ruin you. But it's actually the opposite. And that's what I'm trying to show people, that, like, if you stick to your values and you continue to live that kind of a life and you work really hard, because there's just no substitute for hard work. Like, we can break this system. We don't have to all stay within this system, and success can look very different than what the package that was sold to all of us, right?
Oh,
Because
it's so
I now have
true.
people that I am like shocked. They're like, can I come work at your firm? And I'm like, you literally work at like one of the top firms in the city. Like, you want to come work with me? And they're like, yeah, but like, you are one of the top people. I want to come work with you. And I'm like, oh my God, like, that was never like in the cards for me. So like, you can really do whatever you want, is what I've realized, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
cool.
about to
It's pretty
apply
great.
for a job at your firm after this. Are you
Listen,
kidding
if we
me?
ever need any business development or anything like that, you're going to be my,
Yes,
my
and
first call.
just keep my number around
Oh my gosh.
because I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I go work for you? It just sounds so. With all of this, what is next for you? I mean, you're in your mid 30s, you've achieved so much already. Like, what is next?
Honestly, I really want to have another baby. I've,
Mm,
I've I've wanted another baby for a while, but my professional life was not in a place where I could see myself having a child. I needed something different and some different stability so that I could feel like I'm in a position to have another baby. So I have a 3-year-old. I needed the support system, the right staffing, the right partner, which is my sister. I love my
mhm.
husband, but that's a different type of partnership. I needed the right
Yes.
business partner to feel confident and comfortable in taking that step. So that's definitely something that's on my agenda. Maybe not this year because we've just launched the firm, but I really do want that. I think that's something that women should be able to talk about openly and honestly in professional settings. So I'm saying that intentionally on this podcast, because people have said to me, Annika, don't tell people that you want to have another baby when you're launching your own firm. And I'm like, I refuse to fit into that thing. If you don't want to hire me because I'm going to have another baby, like, you shouldn't hire me. You know what I mean? So that's definitely on my docket. I want to do more speaking engagements. So I actually just got my first ever sort of like, we will pay for you and all of your expenses to come and speak as a keynote speaker at this thing on for International Women's Day, which was like my first ever sort of like, oh wow, like, this personal brand has really taken off in that direction, that like someone would want me to come. Like, I remember being like, what, like, I said to my husband, I was like, I think they want me to like come there and like do something. And he was like, for what? I was like, I think I'm the speaker. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like
You are
a
the
weird
draw.
thing. I'm the person, right? But
Yeah.
that's all just so new for me, and it's so natural. It feels so natural. Like doing podcasts feels so natural. Doing speaking engagements feels so natural. But I feel for such a long time that I had to like dull that down. So like stepping fully into my own is really the future of this. So I did a little post on my LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago about my word for 2026. I said my word for 2026 is unapologetic. We're no
Mm,
longer apologizing. Like I'm here, I'm doing the damn thing, like I'm doing the
yes.
law, I'm doing the jewelry thing, I'm doing the LinkedIn thing, I'm going to do the speaking engagements. I'm going to do whatever I feel I want to do because I think there's this misconception that if you do a lot of things, you're not doing any of them well, and
Yes.
that's
Yes.
not the case. Like and I say that without like a cocky sort of feel about it, but it's like, I feel that women just have so much capacity to do, but we are so, when you are in systems where you're constantly trying to like pivot and eggshells and who do I, you don't want to piss off this person, blah, blah, blah. You spend so much of your emotional energy doing that. It's amazing how much bandwidth you actually have as a human being when you're no longer, like doing all of that every day. So yeah, so I'm now like, okay, I'm free. I'm able to just do. And I've been doing this now for 2 months. I've been practicing with my sister since December 1, and I've never felt like more free or more happy. So I think that's the future plans for me. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I want to keep lifting up the people that had no one there to lift them up. I try as much as I can to keep doing. I honestly, I'm inundated with requests for coffees and mentorship and this, and I'm only one person, so there's only so much I can get to. But I don't want that to fall off of like the things that I do. So I try and keep like a coffee spot at least once a month for somebody who I haven't met, who's a racialized person or a woman, to give them some advice. So yeah, just continuing to do those things and continuing to like be true to myself, I think is all of the things that I kind of want to do. Because even with the baby thing, it's like people judged me when I had my first baby because I continued my master's when I was on maternity leave. It was like, oh, like, why are you doing that? You're taking time away from your baby. And so again, I'm unapologetic about it now. Like I will come back to work. If I want to come back to work in 6 weeks, I'll come back in 6 weeks. If I don't want to come back in 6 weeks and I want to take longer, I will do that. It's going to be my decision and I will figure out what works for me. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
You're so empowering. Like you make me want to just rewrite my whole life plan. Like I literally want to leave this podcast and go write a business plan for my life.
Oh my gosh, it's been a journey. Like I speak with such confidence and such, like I guess like self-awareness now, but it's been a long time to get here. Like I was not like
Hmm.
this even maybe 5 years ago. I feel like this evolution of Annika started in 2020.
Hmm.
Like that it's been I was always a loud personality. It was funny, I went to my 10-year law school reunion, and recently, this was like in September, and someone reminded me like, Attica, you were voted loudest. Do you remember you were voted loudest when we graduated? I was like, was I? They're like, yeah, you were voted loudest. And I was like, yeah. So I've always been a big personality, very opinionated, all of those things. But I think this sort of like up a notch is really starting to like hit now. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey for sure.
Yes. So just to close it out, if someone listening today is standing at the edge of making a big decision or thinking about breaking rank and doing things, beyond the norm, what would you tell them?
I would say don't take anyone else's advice. And I know that sounds crazy, but like people are coming to you with their advice from how they navigate their careers. They're coming to you with their advice on their own personal risk levels. Um, a lot of people are not even trying to do what you're trying to do with your career. So if you want to do something big, you got to swing big. And if you want to do something small, maybe you take this one small step forward. Like that's the decision that you're going to make. So it's totally okay to, I get advice all the time from people. I'm not saying don't get advice from anybody, but at the end of the day, the only person's advice you should trust is your own, because you know yourself best. And I'm telling you, when I had 1,000 people following me on LinkedIn, I had multiple people tell me that I should have shut my LinkedIn down. They were very concerned. They said, you're ruffling some feathers in the bar. People aren't happy about this, Annika. You shouldn't be talking about these topics. Like, we're really concerned that it's going to ruin your career. And some of those
I've
really
been there.
came from Yeah,
Yes.
some of that really came from a place of really looking out for me. Like they really genuinely were worried for me. Some of that definitely came from a place of like, we don't like that you're doing something that's a little bit different and outside of the box. Like you gotta reel it in because this is the system and this is what this looks like. And I just didn't take anybody's advice. Like I slept on it for a couple of days and I said, no, this feels aligned for me. This feels right for me. I'm going to keep doing LinkedIn. And like here we are 5 years later, and I have full control over my career in a way that I think I have agency in a way that so many racialized women don't have because I was able to market myself and my own brand in a way that you can't within the system, right? So, yeah, trust your own judgment, trust your own advice is what I would say.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being a guest on Breaking Rank. You are literally the epitome, the prototype of what Breaking Rank is all about. And you're so inspirational. I feel just, I have a lot of energy right now because I literally, I feel so motivated. I'm
Oh,
not
thank
even
you.
joking to
Oh,
go
I love that.
and create like a life plan because you're such an inspiration. And
Oh,
thank
well,
you
thank you
again
so much
so
for
much.
having me. I really feel like that's like one of those right back at you sort of things. I can always identify women that I'm going to, jive with very readily and easily. And I
Mhm.
kind of saw your brand and your ethos and what you were trying to do with this podcast. And I thought to myself, like, wow, that is so aligned with the type of woman that I want to be associated with, the type of woman that I feel would really understand my story. I would understand your story. And I could feel that I was like that with Megan, right? When I met Megan, when we
Yes.
were immediately connected, we posted something like she was commenting on a story and I was commenting on a story on LinkedIn that we like side DM'd each other. This was like a few years ago. And so, yeah, I really think what you're doing is amazing. And I'm like so excited to keep hearing about your podcast and keep listening to all the people that you bring on your show. So,
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. You're welcome to be a guest anytime. I can't wait
oh,
to
thank
see
you.
what your career looks
I'd
like
I'd
in
love to be back.
5 years.
Yeah.
Or just even, I mean, at your pace. I mean, even within the next 6 months, we'll see what's happening there. But
Yeah, no,
thanks
we'll definitely
again.
do it again for sure.
Yes, and for all of the listeners, if you want to connect with Annika, you can find her on LinkedIn. That is a great place to reach her, and I would highly recommend that you read her posts. They're very insightful, very inspiring, and very badass. So
Thank you.
make sure you check her out on LinkedIn, and if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. So thanks, everyone.